And here's the frame. Isn't it amazing? At Bespoked, frames are nice, but bikes are better. So let's make it into a bike. Oh, yeah, if you haven't watched the first episode of this series, you might be a little bit confused what we're talking about. That's because we built a frame with Ted James. We did a whole video on it. It's really fun. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. Link's up there. Now, we should also talk about Bespoked a little bit. This year, it's in Dresden in Germany. It is one of the world's largest handmade and custom bike shows. It's incredible, but it's only in a few days' time. So I've got to make this frame into a bike shape, and fast. To build the bike, we're going to need to put it in a frame stand. And the best way of clamping any bike, even a lightweight steel one, is actually by the seat tube, just here. So we're going to need to put that in. You do need to think about the cable routing for your dropper. Thankfully, we've got external routing, so it shouldn't be a problem to plug it in later, because it's a nice straight tube. No weird kinks or anything like that. So seat post in. And I've done some measurements already, because I'm an eager beaver, and I know that just about here will be my full saddle height, but we can play with that later. But this is just to get us in the stand and building. Don't worry, sports fans, I will be greasing it, so we'll just tighten that up. Now into the stand. There's loads of different ways that you can build a frame. Me personally, I always start with a head tube and then I'll effectively sort of work back along the bike. So we're just gonna add some grease and then press fit in an interface fit, the headset. You don't have to get color matching grease, but it does help. Headset's nicely fitted. We've put a little bit of grease in the bearings. Now it's time to offer up the fork, put some spacers there, then put the stem, and then we'll measure it and then we'll trim the fork. So we've got this crown race here. It's a non-split one, so it offers lots of bearing support, but we just have to be mindful that that will get seated on when we put the fork in. So we need at least one more of the spacers. Not sure exactly how this bike's gonna ride, so it's better to cut it a little bit tall and then trim it down later than cut it too short and, well, not have any adjustment. Okay, we've got a nice healthy gap there with space for the compression ring or top cap. Now we've just got to put that staff-angled nut in there. Thankfully, there's a tool for that. This staff-angled nut is steel. This steerer tube is alloy, and you can get, well, bimetallic corrosion. So we're going to dab just a little bit of grease on there. That'll also help it slide in. We don't want loads and loads because it is an interface fit, so we need it to be nice and tight. There we go, nicely fitted. I've attached the brake. I haven't actually attached the caliper, so the lever's on there. I'm just doing that so that the caliper's weight can help uncurl the hose a little bit. If you've got longer, you can leave it overnight, and just hanging the brake lever and caliper over, say like a work stand, just means that the flex, a natural sort of coiling as it's been kept in the packet, just slowly unwinds. But then we're going to move to the bottom bracket. This is a classic. When you're in a rush, it's really easy. Okay, I know this is a single speed, but I still need to put a lever on. And often, modern dropper levers go the inside of your rear brake or front brake. I've rushed, I've put this on. Thankfully, this P&W one is a split clamp, so I'm okay. It's easy to forget. Essentially, every bolt needs some prep, whether that's a bit of grease or a bit of thread lock. Bolts are often steel, other parts are aluminium. You're going to get bimetallic corrosion, aka stuff will get stuck. So when you're building a full bike, don't forget to grease stuff or surface prep them. Now it's bottom bracket time. If you've not seen the earlier videos, we're going for an EBB, so that's an eccentric bottom bracket. It means that it moves off axis. So we've got a drive side, non-drive side, but essentially we've got the bottom bracket through there, and you can see to the bottom bracket shell, this circle here where the axle will go through can be in a different place. And that means that we can use it to change bottom bracket height. We can actually use it to change seat angle and seat height too, but for this bike, we're going to use it mostly for tensioning our chain. This one's from Rideworks. It's really nice. It's got enduro bearings already fitted in, but we're going to put lots of grease on these surfaces here to ensure that all the tolerances are right and it will work correctly. You don't have to colour match your grease and paint, but make sure you use a high quality grease. That means that this steel bit doesn't bond with the aluminium bit. Ted's already put a drain hole in here, so if any water gets in through any of the little holes here, it should all drain, it should be fine. I've never fitted one of these before, but Ted assures me he's machined it to the exacting tolerances. Oh, wow, that's amazing. So we've got some little cutouts just here, well, 2 of them for the bolts as it pulls together, but the others are for pin spanners, and that means that opposed to just pivoting it around like that, once it's all assembled, I'll be able to put a pin spanner on there and then pull the part around. It's going to be really fun to play around with bottom bracket height as well as tensioning the chain. I've got a derailleur hanger here, so if I wanted to go geared and just play around with the geometry, I can. We've got a Shimano crank. We are going to run it single speed, but it's a nice 30-tooth chainring, nice and little, perfect for me. It's 24mm spindle, that's the key bit, so it should, fingers crossed, just slide in. Let's see. Oh, that is lovely. I've not tightened up the EBB, but actually in a way you can see how much adjustment there is. And also you can see why Ted was getting sort of, I guess, tense about chainring clearance, purely because you can see how far forward we've got, you know, huge acres of space here. And then if we move it in the rearward position, it's a little bit tighter, but there's still lots of space. Good job, Ted. Got to do some wheels. I made a start because we were in a bit of a rush. So we've got the front wheel already done. So that's with a big Mezcal 2.6. We're going for the same Mezcal 2.6, but 275 in the back. So we'll get that aired up. Okay, before I finish, because we're in a mad rush, I want to check I've got the tyres on the right way. Loads of tyres now. I've got the rotational arrow. Double check. So we've got the drive hub on this side, so we're going to rotate around that way. Yeah, we're okay. I'm just going to get the tyres on the rims, and then I'm going to inject the sealant through. Normally with other rims and tyre combos, you do need to do a dry run, you do need to double check, but I've used this rim combo and tyre combo before, so I'm confident that it will air up. A little bit of tightness here, so we'll just walk the bead into the centre section, just like that, and then roll it on. Nice and easy. Wheel time. So one of the key things that I wanted was big tyres, because I really like how 2.6 rides, especially on a hardtail. I'm getting older, I like a bit of cushioning and a bit of comfort and more grip and potentially faster rolling. But it is a big ask, which is why we've gone for a 275 in the back. Oh, look at that. Super. So you'll notice this is microspline. Traditional HG rear cassette or freehub bodies were easy. You could use little spacers and shimmer them around, but with microspline, well, works a little bit differently. Thankfully, Wheels Manufacturing does a slide-on adapter which changes this to more like a HG, and then they come with lots of spacers, so we'll be able to run it single speed, and key to running single speed, get the chain alignment and the cog perfectly aligned. So here is the device. This is the Solo Spline single speed conversion kit. It's very clever. So this will slide onto the freehub body that I've got on my wheel, and then I've got this wonderful mix of spacers here. Then we can space where it is precisely. I am going to be using this bike in inclement conditions, and this is actually a controversial one. Some people don't grease their freehub bodies before they slide cogs on. If you don't and you don't have any problems, don't worry about it. I have had it where I've had cogs sort of, bond onto there with corrosion. So I'm just going to put a couple of light swipes of this nice Petey's grease on here, and then we'll start assembling stuff. So much like aligning a microspline cassette, we've got the offset little tab here, so we've got to make sure we line that up, and then it just slides on. This end spacer always needs to sit on the back. Then we've got these 4 other spacers in kind of itty bitty, little bit bigger, sort of midi, and then maxi sizes. These are the ones that we're going to have to play around with. So we've got a free hub setup on a microspline. Brilliant. So there's quite a lot of back and forth with getting the chain line just right. And I'm sure there's more efficient ways where I could measure stuff, but I'm a bit of a sucker for just sort of eyeballing stuff and seeing. Because it's a chain, it can take some kind of side loads being offset, but we kind of want to make it dreamy. We want to make sure it's right. We've got lots of adjustments, so we can make it. It just takes a little bit of time. Okay, we're looking a lot more bike shape now. We've got a wheel in, we've got the mattocks in, the forks in, bars sten. We need to trim the bars down a little bit. Obviously, we need to put a saddle on. Well, and the other thing is we need to get brakes on. So brakes next. One of the nice features about this Hayes brake is that we've got an adjustable banjo, and it means that, well, because I got 2 front brakes, just that's what came, I need to fit a longer hose. It's a really nice feature to have, and it means that I'll be able to run this empty hose and get the cable routing or hose routing really perfect. So we're just going to bolt that in place. Just got to be careful and mindful. There's a couple of square edge seals which need to sit just perfectly in there. So we're not going to tighten it up super tight, because we're then going to just make sure that we can flow it. It's going to go inside, and we have to be able to flow it just there. And looking at that, looks pretty good. So with the hose, we can just get it naturally to sit with a bit of curve, and then we can tighten this up nice and snug. We've got the brake lever in position, then we can thread the hose into the right place. But before we do, these bars are a full 800, and if you've not watched my How Wide Should My Bars Be video, we can see that I run about 750, and even on this hardtail, I'm pretty sure I want to go smaller than 800. So we're going to trim the bars down, then reposition the brake in, and then cut the tube. Might look like I'm just randomly turning the bar, but I've got a firm hold of the brake hose here, roughly where I want it to be. I've tried a couple of different orientations of where the brake hose is going to come up from this outer routing. We can run it the wrong side of the head tube, if you like, on the drive side of the bike, and then run it around, which kind of looks cleaner, but as we rotate the bars, it moves and tightens in a weird place, so we're having too much hose. If I get the spacing just right here, it sits just in one place on the head tube, pretty much in both directions. So I'll be able to use some little 3M mastic tabs just on the side of the head tube, and that'll protect the paint really nicely. So time to put in the bleed and the insert into the hose, and because the hose is dry, we will have to bleed the brakes. But it's meant that we've been able to play around with that hose placement really nicely. What's really nice about these Dominion brakes and the Manitou fork is that it's got an integrated cable guide, and you've got the adjustable banjo, so it means you can get a really nice cable line or hose line on the fork, and then we're going to shorten it, probably put the front wheel in just to check how clearance is. So let's do that now. Because the way that the hose clamp on the fork kicks the hose out of the way, it means we can get a really nice arc. So I'll just undo this, and then we'll do a bit of a hose shorten process, and then a bit of a brake bleed. So similar process as we're looking for on the rear brake. We're just looking for like a nice, graceful arc. So again, if we kind of like go a bit too extreme, you can see the kind of arc here is a bit pinched, and the kind of angle of the hose coming out of the brake lever isn't as nice as it could be, but give it a little bit more space, and we've got this nice, natural arc. And thanks to the kind of clever cable routing, but it kicks the hose in this nice arc away from the rear brake, so it's not going to rattle. and then also away from that big 2.6 tyre. Now to shorten the hoses, we've got to bleed the brakes. Simple process, dot fluid, so be careful, wear gloves. Part Toolmaker kit, it's really good, it's a universal one, so it works on more than just Hayes. But of course, Hayes have got their own bleed kit. Comes in a little natty box with all the things you need, so you've got a syringe, all the fittings, and probably most importantly, the dot fluid, and it's in a really tiny container. And you might think, well, that's not very good value, but it is actually really good value. The smaller container is better because as soon as you open the dot fluid, you kind of need to use it. It absorbs water over time, and that can then sort of outgas under really heavy braking. So use fresh dot fluid, like in a small container, like this one. Okay, all together, I've got to say, I'm really pleased. No real hitches. I was a bit worried about the Rideworks EBB because I've never fitted one before, but it was so smooth. I think a lot of that's down to, well, Ted's craftsmanship and checking those really high tolerances. And it's old money, it's £23. Steel is real. Well, we've got a cable, the dropper post, which actually shouldn't be too taxing because it's pretty much all external. Even with a cable, I've been able to slide it through. These guides aren't done up yet, but we can see it's all the way through. I've been able to take the pump off, route it just behind, and then it's up and touching the base of the dropper post. So I've measured the dropper post. I've measured it twice to make sure that that saddle height is what I want. And then I'm gonna just check the routing all the way through here. I want it to follow the rear brake nice and tightly so it looks all uniform. And then I'm going to do something radical and chop that end. Then we're going to take the post out, slide the cable all the way through, fit the inner cable, fit it all up to the dropper post, and then slide it all the way back through. But safe in the knowledge we've got this outer cable the right length. We've got a nice little linkage under here which activates the post. We've actually got two different ports, or I guess cable barrel adapters, so we can run it with just a straight cable on this end. If we were using a different lever, we'd need the kind of the end of the cable, the sort of like chunky bit. We could run that at the lever. Thankfully, P&W do it both ways. So we've got an adapter here that will slot in, and I'll be able to use the end of the cable. So they also provide the other end, so if I was just pinching the end of the cable, I could use that one. Really nice to see we've got both options in there. So we're going to use, as we're using the loam lever, which we've got down on the floor, primed ready. There we go. So that just slots in there. Cable routing, external, really simple to change. So if this one doesn't work out for me, it's not going to be a huge task to change it. The mechanic's dream of external cable routing. It can be done. Can you see what I've missed? Handy feature on this dropper is we've got these numbers on the back, and because I was able to measure the post before we did the cable routing, I'll actually be able to count where my number is, and I think it's just before touching that cutout. Also shows Ted's amazing frame craft, that this seat is super straight as well as that cutout. Really nice. Depending on how old you are and your vintage, you might not know what this is for, because lots of modern derailleur rear mechs with cables and lots of other stuff don't use cables, but this is, well, often called a third hand or fourth hand tool, and it crimps the cable just up here, and then I'm able to pull with this ratchet and add load and a static load and tighten stuff up. So it's perfect for dropper posts. Handy tool. Whilst I do ride flats, I do ride clips on my hardtail. I think clips are slightly better, help keep your feet on. And to kind of colour match everything, with the kind of silver of the seat clamp, we've got the silver of the headset and the crown of that really nice Manitou Matic. We've got some silver mallets to go on. The bike is now built, it's functional, the brakes work, the dropper works, the one by, kind of obviously it works, it's one by, there's not a lot of adjustment. Time to go and get some beauty shots before we've got to pack it up because I've got to fly in about 3 hours. The bike is now ready. I'm so excited. I think it looks amazing. Hopefully everyone at Bespoke will like it too. I think Ted's just knocked it out of the park. Now we've got to get to Dresden in a few hours. So I've got to pack it and I've got to make sure that it gets there, not just in one piece, but immaculate. Thankfully, I've got something just for that task. This new Topeak bike box. Right, let's pack it away. Off to Dresden. Next stop, the airport. Dresden Airport is a lot bigger than I expected, and actually the Bespoke show is much bigger than I expected as well. It's over 2 huge floors, and I'm already on the wrong floor, so back into the lift. Okay, this is the fun time. We've got a booth. Very exciting. We've got tunes happening already. Setup is happening around me. Now it's time to build a bike. I've got to say I'm a little bit scared because, well, it's always that thing of how has it travelled? Well, looks like it's all there. So far, so good. This Topeak case is great. Okay, it looks kind of good. So now to, make it back into bike shaped. One thing that's really nice about these Hayes brakes, so we took the bar off because then it means that we keep the stem, the fork all in, and we keep all the tension in the headset. And what's great is we didn't have to remove the grips and have all of that stuff because the back of the Hayes lever just comes all the way off. And the same for the PNW dropper post. It's got a little pivot, which means, well, we can leave the bar with the grips on. These are lock-on grips, so it's slightly less hassle, but it's still nice to have one less thing to remove to take the bar off. Hopefully, the dropper still works. Here goes. Success. Phew. Yeah, we're there, effectively. We've unpacked the bike. We've got it looking like a bike shape. We've got some accessories to do, but first we've got to go and get a plinth. And I think there's some kind of like setup wizardry to make sure it kind of balances. But yeah, the bike is looking good. So we're getting there. If you can hear me over the booming bass, everything's happening here at Bespoked. It's really getting, tension is building. And that's because, well, it's about to be awards ceremony time and there's lots of awards. And well, there is a best off-road and there is a best mountain bike. So fingers are crossed. We spoke to one of the Bespoked judges, John Watson from The Radavist, on how the heck you judge a show like this. John, you judged best off-road bike. How do you, with all the different ranges of bikes here, how do you get to pick and how do you focus in? What makes a winning bike for you?
Oh, yeah, Off-road's a weird category. It's, is it a mountain bike? Is it a gravel bike? For me, I wanted to look back to the roots of what an off-road bicycle meant and find something that was a throwback to the first cruisers and clunkers out of California and Colorado and with a modern twist for a show.
Bespoke bikes are on the side of art, so for the consumer or like customer that's got that custom bike, it is like art. They're not gonna leave that bike because it means so much to them, even if potentially technology moves on.
And art is all about the process, right? So like you look at a bike like that and the spokes were twisted because the spokes that he had were too long, and rather than cut new spokes, he twisted them to make them shorter. And then he pulled a flat out coaster cooler for the bike, and it's you can see that like there were moments of aha that happened, and I think that's what the beauty of Handmade shows are. When the computer is in your mind and you're trying to paint a picture that your mind's eye sees, that's what really draws me in.
So we didn't win an award, but I think just being here is a massive win. It's the first time that I've ever built a bike with anyone else or got even close to kind of brazing or welding or doing anything like that. And the turnaround time, it's literally been weeks since we sort of went, yeah, let's do it. And Ted's been able to create something from my kind of weird dream and back of a magazine sort of sketch to something that's here at the show. And again, the real win has just been all the amazing bikes, and so many people have seen this bike and gone, actually, that's pretty cool. So not award winners, but maybe we can win next year. Wow, you can see the bike is still in the case that brought it back. Haven't unpacked it, haven't ridden it yet, but I'm still zinging with excitement. It was such a fantastic experience from working with Ted on, well, developing this bike just for me. I feel so lucky that I've got a bike that fits exactly my needs and will be able to change and play with in the future. Not something that many mainstream hardtails you can do with, which is, I guess, why we built it. And I'm still really excited and buzzing from all the creative options that we saw at Bespoked. So many different bikes. Yes, lots of them were very expensive, but not all of them were really expensive. And I think that was the thing that I found fascinating, is that yes, there's some super high-end builds, but there are also some sort of middling builds of people who really, really love bikes and have a real passion for what they want in a bike that they can't find in the mainstream. The other thing is that some of these artisanal bikes, well, they're so custom that they can be the exact niche that you want. If you want a custom bag to fit it, they can do that. If you want special rack mounts in a special place for a new bag mount that you've just thought of, they can do it. And from those kind of unique interpretations of how a bike is going to work for lots of different trails and lots of different roads as well, well, that's where these really big trends come from. And I think one of the big trends that I saw at Bespoked was, well, 32ers. They're not slowing down. There's going to be more of them. So, will this get turned into a 32er? It might do. I've got to ride it yet. I think that's going to be the next video, and that will be really fun.